Life can become real horror if certain things don't function properly within this. And taking care of water is an important aspect of that. In the night, with a little tamarind and turmeric, the vessel is washed. Nobody drinks water traditionally in the East without first bowing down to it. Water is bigger than your God, yes or no? Have you seen the Jivarasam? You put this in your house and consume this water on a daily basis, you will not get into chronic ailments. In America, everybody drinks water with 3/4 of the tumbler being full with ice cubes. Now what I say now will be unpopular. When in the yogic culture, if you are a yogi, if you're on the path of the inner transformation, you want to transform your system to another dimension of possibility, then you drink water only which is within 4 degrees variation upwardly and downward. That is, your normal body temperature is somewhere around 36 degrees centigrade. So you can drink up to 40 degrees or 32 degrees. This is the best way to consume. If you are a student, that is, you want to absorb knowledge, you're not looking for transformation, you're only interested in absorbing knowledge, then you must drink within 8 degrees variation. That is, you can drink up to 44 degrees and 28 degrees. If you are a householder who is not interested in any transformation or learning, you just want to manage your wife and children and husband, that's all your thing is, then you can drink up to 12 degrees variation from both sides. Beyond that is not considered conducive for anybody. So that's an unpopular thing to say, but it's important that whatever you consume is somewhere in the range of the body temperature, not too far away from that, because it will disturb the way the water within the system behaves by consuming water or any substance which is very, very far away from the body temperature. I know the ice cream loving people and will scream at me now. I'm just telling you the ideal conditions. How many of you want to live in the ideal range or being conscious of it wherever possible, staying there is a good thing to do. If you walk into a traditional South Indian home, even today, the water is kept in a certain way. It has to be in a metal pot, preferably copper or brass or some alloy of copper. And you will see they will keep a lamp, they will have sacred ash smeared on it, a flower on top of it. Here it is. In America there's no flower, but in India always there'll be a flower on top of it. Because water needs to be happy. If you should not turn into a horror, life is… I don't know, sometimes you might have been, many of you, but I think once a month everybody should make a visit to one of the major hospitals around you. Not just to catch an infection, just to see how much of a horror life can become, you know. Life can become real horror if certain things don't function properly within this. And taking care of water is an important aspect of that. So, every day how you drink the water means, well, take the… even today in our house they do it, and many homes they still do it. Of course, many people have shifted to plastic bottles and plastic purifier machines. Otherwise, in the night, with a little tamarind and turmeric, the vessel is washed, not with soap, and then water is filled up and they put a flower on it, they light a lamp in the night and go to bed, and next day morning they will drink from that. This water is going to behave wonderfully within you. Above all, water is looking at your attitude towards it, being a huge presence on the planet. But now, you're pumping water through your pipelines from your local waterworks or whatever you call it. They say, if the water is going through, let's say 50 bends, pumped forcefully, and then it drops out of your tap, you take it in your glass, in terms of molecular structure arrangement, 60% of it has turned into poisonous water. But if you hold it in this glass for the next 20 minutes, it will undo itself. If you're drinking, I see in America, people are drinking from a spout like this, straight into their mouth. Many times when I'm thirsty, when I'm outside, people say, Sadhguru, there's a spout here. I said, I'll never ever drink from a spout. It's too… it just lacks dignity. I know a lot of people are not going to like this, but please drink in some other way. This is not the way to drink water. In the East, always, the best way to drink water is with your own hands, not even in a tumbler. You must drink with your own hands. If that's not possible, if somebody gives water to you, in a metal tumbler, you always hold it with both your hands and drink like this. Have you seen this? When you come to India, you must have seen, the village people still do it like that. Of course, city people are… they're all wearing I Love New York t-shirts, so they're different people. But you will see, if you go into the villages, even today, if you give water, they will always drink like this. Even if you give it in a tumbler, they'll hold the tumbler like this and drink like this, not like this. Because it's important that first, before you drink water, you have to touch it. Allow that much time and then drink it, then it behaves differently. And this may sound like what to say, some mumbo-jumbo story. Well, some people come to senses only after suffering comes. Why some? Most people. This happened once in a South Indian jungle. A lion was really feeling a little, the king of the jungle. So he was just swaggering around like that. He saw a little rabbit, pop, he caught him. Who is the king of the jungle? He asked. You don't know whether you are his snack today? Said, you, my master, only you, who else can be? Let him go, okay, magnanimous today. And then a fox was going, pop, he caught the fox. Who is the king of the jungle? You know a fox, what he will say. He said all those things with extra attachments. Then he was feeling really full, and with a big swagger he came. There was a big clearing in the forest. He looked up, there was a huge tusker. He was in the mood, not considering sizes. Said, who is the king of the jungle? The tusker, without a word, picked him up in his trunk, twirled him around and smashed him on the ground. His back broke. Then he said, you could have just told me. The tusker said, well, I had to make my point. Life is just like this. After things go bad, well, you could have told me, I would have loved water. Somebody should have told me. No, see, your life has to make a point, otherwise not everybody gets it. So, your need for water might have come down quite dramatically because the humid conditions and your own openness to the element could have done that. And if you don't feel thirsty, if you don't drink water, nothing is going to happen, you're going to be fine. It's only in America you will die if you don't drink water. Nowhere else people simply drink water. When they get thirsty, they drink water, otherwise they're fine, even in a desert. It's only in America, in cold climate, everybody's carrying a bottle and sipping continuously because the marketing machines have done this to them that they must drink lots of water. Excessive consumption of water, especially if it's done in small sips, body absorbs. When it absorbs, the sodium levels, which are very delicately balanced, will drop. The rest of the body also is affected but may not be so noticeable, but in the brain, sodium levels dropping will lead to swelling of the brain. This does not mean your brain is growing. It means… swelling means it's a kind of sickness, okay? Not expansion of the brain, it's swelling up because of lack of sodium content. So because there's not enough sodium, more water goes into the brain, trying to supply the required sodium to keep the balance. So more water in your brain means you will slosh. Psychological imbalances will come when you manage to absorb. See, if you drink lots of water at one go, body will decide how much to absorb, how much to throw out. But if you keep sipping through the day, body kind of gets deceived and tends to absorb more water than it should. But let's say right now you drink 2 liters of water, all of it is not going to go into the system. What is needed, it'll take, rest of it will be shunted out. So, not consuming water and being out there is very much a possibility. Nobody need to drink water simply because you think it's a good thing to do. That is what the water bottling companies are telling you, okay? When you feel thirsty, you must drink water just to ensure you're drinking enough. Drink 10% more than what you actually need, a couple of cups more, just to ensure that you don't drink less. If you're not the kind who is carrying a water bottle with you every minute of the day, then it's good to drink little extra water so that when the need comes, you have a certain amount of time before you can drink, that it is not an emergency. At the same time, when you need water, when you're thirsty, if you don't drink, it'll cause damage to the system. I would say, this may be very controversial, the medical fraternity will for sure protest on this, but they will come to it after maybe 20 years or 30 years. I would say if everybody consumes good water in sufficient quantity, 50% of the heart attacks in the world would come down. The damage to the heart is immense when the water that is needed is not there in the system. But when I say water, it is not just about drinking liquid water, you must eat high water content foods. If you eat a fruit, it's nearly 90% water. Vegetables and other things are over 70% water. Minimum 70% water content must be there in the food that you eat. But in this part of the world, now it's changing, of course people are becoming more conscious about these things, otherwise, in this part of the world, what people are eating is very dry food. Everything that is here is generally dry, only now. I think 25 years ago, in this part of the world, hardly people ate any vegetables. Vegetarians were beaten on the streets. Yes, being a vegetarian is a crime because they think you're weird. So, very low water content food you eat and it goes and gets stuck in your… like concrete, it sits in your stomach. Now you drink water, that's not going to help. You must eat high water content foods. When you consume food, at least it must be level with the percentage of water content in your own body. So any food that you eat should be at least 70% water content. So this is why vegetables, fruits must be part of your diet so that it is there. You eat bread, I don't know, maybe it's just 20–25% water content or even less, depending on the type of bread you eat. If you eat meat, it's very, very low water content. Cooked meat has very low water content. So, when you're on bread and meat, you will have serious issues, and I'm telling you, doctors may think I need water up here, but they will come to this in 20 years, 30 years, whatever time they take. I will tell you, if they consume high water content foods, 50% of the cardiac deaths will go from the world. People won't die of heart attacks. One reason they're dying of heart attacks is they're eating very low water content foods. So people may say, what about other countries? Why are they dying in India? There also the same has happened. What used to be traditional meals and what they're eating today, it has changed dramatically because they're also ruled by commercial forces who tell them what to eat. They won't listen to their bodies. They look at the advertisement, the big hoarding or the television advertisement decides what you eat, not what your body tells what to eat. So, not consuming water in certain situations is okay, but if there is an indication of thirst, you must drink water. It's very necessary that you must drink water when there's an indication of thirst, because body has its own way. When it indicates you need water, you must give it water within 20 minutes or at least at the most half an hour. You must drink substantial quantity of water. If you drink enough water, then body will choose how much to take, how much to reject. Like a South Indian meal, if you eat, a cooked meal I'm talking about, if you eat, very easily 60–70% water. In fact, more. In some of the foods, it's much more. But now the food that you're eating here, you're eating bread, which was baked a month ago probably. Is that minimum? Even in so-called organic shops, it's at least a month or at least a week. Nobody is going and getting fresh bread and come, and anyway, the way the bread is baked, it doesn't have water in it, very, very little water. So of course you're compensating that with a bucket of Coca-Cola or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't work like that. If you drink any liquid along with your food, the acids that are necessary for digestive process will get diluted. Your whole digestive process gets inefficient. Because food, when it goes in, if it contains water, it's assists. But if you put any liquid on top of it, you will see the food will remain in the stomach bag for too long. We are very concerned about this always in the yogic culture and life, that we don't want food to remain in our stomach bag for more than 2.5 hours maximum. In 2.5 hours' time, it doesn't matter what I've eaten, how much I've eaten, it must go into other parts. If it remains there, it makes you dull. It makes you lose your sense of perception. The level of perception, the keenness of perception is lost, which you notice if you eat food without Coke or coffee or tea or anything, you feel dull. It kind of pulls you down. Whole lot of people have developed a culture around it. After lunch, they have to sleep. It's like you went to the gas station, you fueled up, then you can't start the engine because there is gas in the tank. So that's what it means. So, to ensure that digestive system is in full process, because for most of the chronic ailments that people are suffering today in the world, the headquarters is in the stomach. Yes. But a lot of people, it's shifting to their head, but Largely headquarters is in the stomach, the way… what they eat and the way they eat. So nature has its own way of doing things. These water bodies, I have experienced some water bodies as truly powerful process. It's from my experience of certain natural water bodies which were like, one, you just get into this water, you're like sparkling. Because of that experience, we decided to set up the Chandrakund and Suryakund in the ashram. I thought people should have some experience of water, what water does to you. And today, I think there are tens and thousands of people who know the well-being of being in charged water, what it means, how water behaves very differently. Many of you who've been in the Chandrakund or the Suryakund have experienced the excessive buoyancy of the water. You can check the pH factor, it is just normal. It is not like seawater, it's not Dead Sea where you can walk upon it and whatever. This is just regular water, but you can feel the body becomes far more buoyant in that water simply because of the sheer energy, because of the molecular arrangement has changed so dramatically because of the reverberation which is constantly on. We can create this in our own homes. I'm internationally acceptable way of making a Jivarasam. Have you seen the Jivarasam? So I'm designing and making a Jivarasam which will be internationally acceptable. Right now, what we're making in India is a very powerful Jivarasam, but there is a fetish in the world about certain substances. So we are making another kind of Jivarasam. A copper pot, a Jivarasam, a lamp on top of it. If you can put a flower or a leaf on it, it's fine. You put this in your house and consume this water on a daily basis. Most probably, it's not like a guarantee because there's so many other influences, but largely I would say, you will not get into chronic ailments. You have to catch a bug, that's different. But largely you will be free from body-generating ailments. Your attitude towards the entire thing, not seeing it as a commodity, but seeing it, water is bigger than your mother, yes or no? Water is bigger than your mother, yes or no? Hello? You don't like it? Water is bigger than your God, yes or no? If you say no, I'm going to deprive you of water for next 24 hours. In 24 hours' time, you'll agree with me. So, I'm saying the fundamental life-making material, if you do not treat it as such, with the necessary value and the necessary reverence towards it, it has its own way of doing things. Maybe you've always been thinking if you do something wrong, a lightning rod will strike you down. Lightning may miss you, but water will get you. Yes, if you don't treat it well, it'll get you anyway. If you do the wrong things, it'll get you anyway. So, drinking water is one thing, we can't control the bathing water. If we could, that would be great. There are ways to do that. We are in the process of making a manual how you should conduct water around you and within you. It's part of the Bhuta Shuddhi. The practices are too complex and sophisticated to be taught to larger public, it'll take a certain effort. Simple practices can be taught. In the 21-day Hatha Yoga, we're teaching the Bhuta Shuddhi practice. Otherwise, there is Panchabhuta Aradhana where you can just experience some well-being through a ritual that happens. But understanding a few simple facts as to how you should deal with it, what's around you and what's within you. These two dimensions of water, you have relationship with not just this, what is around you also you have a relationship with this. And we can change the way the water bodies around you behave with you simply by doing certain things with yourself and sometimes with the water body itself. Nobody drinks water traditionally in the East without first bowing down to it, because how the water behaves depends on how you treat it. The volume of memory and intelligence that the water carries, and every molecule of water and every body of water is very individual, and how it behaves within you is very different. Everything may be just H2O, but it does not behave the same way. So how to treat the water? There are various scientific processes, we call this as the Bhuta Shuddhi practices. It's an enormous science for people to learn and grasp, but to put it very simply, overnight or about 6 hours you keep it in a copper vessel and then drink it, you will see the water will feel very different, and various small ailments that people have can be just healed simply by keeping the water in an appropriate space. An appropriate space also means proper aeration is there, and how you treat it above all. Your emotions, your thoughts about the water, being conscious about it, that this is a major ingredient of who I am right now. This is not a commodity, this is life-making material. If you treat it with the necessary reverence, for lack of vocabulary I'm saying reverence, or love towards water, or a feeling of joy towards water, you will see water will behave very differently within you just by changing the water that they drink and how they drink. I have seen many people walking out of chronic ailments just by doing that.
Namaskaram. I hope you really enjoyed the video. I made it because when I started doing yoga and learning about the things, it is what I was doing wrong all the time. The water, how we treat it. And that's why I created this video. I gathered all the information I could find where Sadhguru talked about the water and how to use it in everyday life. And here it is, what you can see here. It's advices that Sadhguru gives about the water that hopefully will allow you to change your way to be more healthier and better, more yogic one. And you can… I created also an article with all this information, so you can go to my blog and skim through the article and remind yourself of these points, because video is long, yes, and it's sometimes… if you forgot something, it's harder to find in video compared to articles, so you can also check it out. And now I want to show you what Sadhguru was talking about. The fragment when Sadhguru was talking about the importance of water, the significance of water, and I usually just skip this kind of… not usually, but sometimes I just skip this kind of videos because it's not, how to say, practical, you know. He doesn't… before you see tips how to use water, which temperature, it's very useful, but it's also very useful to understand, to get a bit of insight why, how important the water is, and because otherwise you will have much less motivation and how to say, you won't be doing as disciplined and strictly things, for example, bowing down before the water, if you didn't get it in yourself that how water can be important. So I really encourage you to also watch the second part of the video where Sadhguru talks about importance of the water. Namaskaram.
Over 72% of your very physical body is water. If the water doesn't behave well with you, you're done. Your physical life is going to be a horror story in so many ways. You can be vaccinated for every disease there is and there isn't, but your physical life is going to be a horror story because water does not respond well to you. Why wouldn't water respond well to you? To put it in a very simplistic way, if you do not approach this dimension consciously or unconsciously, appropriately, water may choose not to respond to you well. You may be living wantonly right now, but water is responding largely to your karmic substance. The fundamental reverb that you're setting forth, based on that, accordingly it'll respond. So, if we find that somebody has this issue of the very water which is nearly 2/3 of our body, or more than 2/3 of our body, nearly 3/4 of our body, is not behaving well within us and just about everything is going wrong with the system, then water-based kriyas and karmas are done so that you make friends with water. Because if you're not friends with food, you can still manage, it's only 12%. But if you're not friends with water, physical life is going to be a horror story. So to keep this relationship between the water that's around us and the water that's within us and the water that has to come into us today, to keep a good relationship, to keep that kind of relationship, that even if it's dirty water, once it enters you, it'll dance in joy. If you keep your situation like that, physical health, your physical life on all levels is well taken care of. It's not that air, fire, earth, not important, it's important. But in sheer volume, water wins. Most nations turning democratic majority, you know the value of majority. And among the ingredients, leaving the Akash, which is of a completely different nature, among the four, water has a more active role, more participatory role compared to the other elements. What does this mean in our day-to-day life? What does this mean in our process of creating health, well-being, intelligence, agility, and the spiritual possibility? What does it mean? What it means is, you can either float on the water or you can drown. That's what it means. The same water can take you places. The same water can drown you. So, the dimension of water, much has been said in recent times, and we know that we can change the molecular composition of water with any kind of reverb or vibration. The way the water structures itself, the way the molecular structure changes so rapidly, and water has almost like how human body has cells. Water has its own cellular structure, and this cellular structure can change with even smallest inputs of vibration. Vibration can come in the form of touch, in the form of thought, emotion, a look, or an utterance of a sound, a mantra, or just the presence, or if one is meditative, it's a known thing. These are recorded now, many images, microscopic images produced like this, that when you become meditative, how the neuronal structure in the brain rearranges itself and dances in a completely different way, simply because you're in a certain state of experience. When you're joyful, how the neuronal structure is. When you're peaceful, how it is. When you're blissful, how it is. When you're stressed or anxious or angry, how it is. All these things have been recorded now. Something very similar to what happens in human brain happens in water for every input that is put into it. When I say input, not chemical input, not physical input, just a thought or an emotion can change the molecular structure of the water in a dramatic way. Different bodies of water are responding in different ways for the same inputs. And the same body of water responds in different ways for different people who come to it. If 5 people go to the river, the same river water will respond differently to 5 different people. If they allow little space between them, it's clearly there. So, we are dealing with such an intelligent liquid. They've gone to the extent of saying that water is the most malleable computer on the planet. So an enormous amount of systems were established in day-to-day life as to how to treat water. Largely lost, but still a bit traditionally, people who are conscious of certain things and those who are little orthodox, even without knowing why they're doing it, many of them are doing the right things. We want this to become common knowledge as it used to be at one time. If you've not made yourself sensitive enough to know, at least you must have information. It's not the same thing. If you could feel it, it would be the best way to do it.